Hey, 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 hey. Happy Wisdom Wednesday, y'all. I'm gonna wait for a couple folks to come on in, but we have a really dope conversation to have with a really dope young lady, and I think you guys are gonna love her. So you guys know on this Wisdom Wednesday, I like to share people who have transitioned out of their own corporate jobs and how they did it, give us some tips, some wisdom, some things that they've learned. But today, now I always talk about corporate America. What's up? What's going on, Matt? Hey y'all, come on in, come on in. Hey Crystal, what up? So I talk about what's up, Javante? I talk about corporate America all the time, but the funny thing is, the experiences that we have in corporate America are very similar to things that are happening across the pond. And I'm gonna share a little bit more about what I'm talking about in just a moment. Let me let my guest in, and then we can get into the conversation. Here she is. Let's see. There we go. Hello, beautiful. How are
Hey,
you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm amazing. I'm more amazing now that you are here. Really excited for this conversation.
Me too.
Let me ask, is the background noise okay or are we good?
No, we're good. I think I can hear you. I was just
Okay,
making sure my
perfect.
settings. Yeah. This is my
Okay.
first time
Okay.
going like live, so I was just trying to figure it out.
Well, welcome, welcome, guys. I love it. I'm glad you are stepping out and doing something different. For those of you guys who are with us right now, who are in the morning meetup, I'm currently at the Social Proof Podcast recording. So, if there is a bit of
Oh,
noise, just let us know. And yes, girl, yeah, they put the update in the chat today, so I came on in. But
um,
we're here to talk about you and your journey and for us to get some tips and strategies and just some lessons, even if you just share your story. There's a
mhm,
lot to be learned about the transition in like being in corporate and then leaving corporate and then like
yeah.
having some time to like really express what that decompression experience was for you. All of these
Mhm.
things are like a part of the journey. So I'm gonna hush and I would love for you to introduce yourself to the folks, let them know where you are, where you from, and what do you do.
Okay, cool. So thanks, Ariel, and I'm really happy to be here today. So my name's El-elyon. I'm from London, it's where I live currently, and I'm a lawyer in the UK, and I've now just started teaching people law, coaching people both in the UK and in the United States for the bar exam. So I'm just trying to take what I've learned and teach others to get there as well. So yeah.
Yes. And she said it so flawlessly. It's my first time on live. Now, we met in the morning meetup.
Mhm.
We met in the morning meetup, and I think the first thing that we connected on was our experiences in corporate. So,
Right.
giving a little bit of your backstory, you said you're a lawyer now, and you currently
Mhm.
service people who are in the UK as well as in America. So,
Yeah.
I know we got some supporters up in here. So, if you
Yeah, hey
would
John.
let's start with what we do have that connection on, and it's our
hmm
experience in corporate. So for those of you guys who don't know what corporate is like over on across the pond, maybe you guys can get some context about what that's like.
Right. So, okay. So, actually, my corporate job was not in a law firm. It was, hold on, sorry, my thing's going to change. Hey, so my corporate job was not in a law firm. It was in a financial services firm. So, it was one of the big four. And I was there as a program analyst. I was in a global team, which was, like in the grand scheme of things, it looked like it was like amazing. I was like, wow, when I first got the job. And I was a program analyst, and I was helping build an iPad app that was for stakeholders, and basically translating it into loads of different languages. And so it was definitely a tough job. But then just the atmosphere, it was something I definitely was not used to. So in a team of 78, I was the only black girl. So that was like my first time seeing how, people respond to you in a corporate setting. I thought, I felt like if it's a corporate setting, there's going to be some kind of, it's going to be different. But actually, the comments and stuff that I would get, and it was never quite in your face, but overall I was kind of made to feel like I should be happy that I'm here. So I was a very hard worker, and they also took that against me, like I was working too fast. I wasn't up to date with the schedule because I was like ahead. Things they would say to me, I think was just, it sort of blew my mind. So I do feel like I have scars from being in corporate, and every time I think about going back, because now I am in a legal job. Well, I teach law, but every time I think about going back into corporate, like I'm just like, I don't think I can. I think I would rather build my own and make my own. So yeah, that's where.
Yes, yes. Now let me make sure I
Mhm.
heard that right. Did you say you were getting things done ahead of time and they had a problem with that?
Yeah, so it was, so I had to just start playing it smart in the end, because what was happening was, like, when I had the job interview, they were like, this is a really tough job. This is going to be very demanding. You need to be able to work under pressure. It's going to be a lot. And I was like, selling myself like, yeah, I can do it. And this is something I didn't really even have experience in. And so I get there, and like the day-to-day tasks, I'm seeing like this like really fancy office in like the city. And so like I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really thought there was going to be a lot of pressure on me to do what I had to do, and I thought I wouldn't be able to perform. But when it came to it, it was like I'm just so focused, and I would just get things done. And what was happening was, my supervisor was like, she would think I hadn't done the work for some reason. She would always just assume I hadn't done something, and I'd be like, yeah, it's all done. And then they were running out of work to give me because I was getting the work done. So then I don't know why, it like sort of rubbed them up the wrong way. So what was happening was, they were saying I'm not in alignment with the plan that they had. And I thought, okay, but we have a target, we're trying to translate. So we were translating the app into 27 languages, and so I had to liaise with like 27 countries, like the contact in the office in that country, to make sure that basically the app made sense in business speak, if that made sense. And I'm just like, if I've got work to do, I'm going to get it done. And they were saying that they had told like the key stakeholders that it was going to be by this time, but then I had sort of like shifted things. So they thought I was like cheating, or like not doing the work properly. Like, went through a review of all my work, realized
Cutting
I was doing
corners. They thought
everything.
you were cutting. So they are thinking, oh, this girl is killing it. She must be doing something to cut corners because she
Yeah,
obviously is cheating the system. That's
yeah,
interesting. Okay, so you
yeah.
mentioned program manager, right? Oh, and I wanted to acknowledge sis in the chat. I think yes, sis. She said she walked away from her job because of a similar experience. Which is really like, I think, being able to acknowledge the fact that we as women, and I want to say Black women because I'm a Black woman.
Mm.
I've had a lot of friends who also experience that overachieving, experience, and then also being undermined, that you might not be necessarily capable of doing what you do in excellence. You're a program manager, so I'm really curious about. So when I went into corporate, I was raised to think corporate was the pinnacle, right? Like, you made it into corporate, girl. Like, the benefits
Yeah.
are awesome, the pay is awesome, and so I always knew that I was going to go to corporate, and I knew that it was going to be easy and I was going to be happy about it. So when it came to the title, like you mentioned, like, you didn't necessarily know what the job was like going to entail, but I was like, let me do whatever I need to do. The first job I took
Right.
was financial analyst, or that's the one I applied for. And I just didn't care. Then I took a business analyst job, and I realized I was chasing after a title. So
Hmm.
that's my experience and my realization of like what the whole shiny like persona of corporate really was. So for
Yeah.
you, what was your motivation to go into corporate? And then, like you said, like you when you experienced it, the culture wasn't quite what you expected. But if you can dive a little bit more into like your motivation for going in, and then what that was like going in, staying in, how that was.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess similar to you, it's kind of like, if you go corporate, it's like damn, like you made it. And so I think it was always like an aspiration of mine to work in like a big firm in the city. So they headhunted me. So I was really like excited about that. And so I thought, like, this is it. Like, I thought, even though it wasn't in hey Nix, even though it wasn't in law, I was just happy to be there, because I thought, well, I'm corporate, and I had like my badge. I would swipe it, and it just made me feel like I had made it. But then I think what kind of tore everything down for me is just seeing that, okay, first of all, because I was the only Black girl, I was always getting these questions that I wasn't used to, because I grew up around Black people. My whole area of family obviously is Black. And so like, say like hair like this, I would have people coming up to it, touching it. My actual boss, like the manager, who's like head of like the whole of EMEA, which is I don't know if you use those terms, but like the European like sector, just things that was so unprofessional.
Say that one more time. What's the word that you're not sure if we say?
EMEA, EMEIA.
Oh, EMEA. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When we're over here and we're talking about
EMEA,
the region.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, yeah. So this is like someone who's really high up, and he was just so inappropriate, and I thought this is not okay. And then I started to realize that they kind of felt like I should feel privileged that I was there. So it was kind of like, well, we let you be here sometimes. And it was never like in my face or anything like that. I can't say anyone ever did anything like that. But then I think I started to lose myself in trying to be what they wanted me to be. Like, for example, I'm an inside person. I like to finish work, go home and chill. But they had this culture of every night, like every like Thursday and Friday, like they would go to we call it the pub, or like go to the bar, I guess, go out, get drinks. And so then when I wasn't participating, it was like, well, El-elyon doesn't want to, be a part of it. El-elyon's not. But then I would have a church service on a Friday. So that's where I needed to go there. And they just didn't really understand that and made it look like I was being like someone who, like, I just wasn't a team player. But then it's crazy how they would like twist things. And like I would have my monthly reviews and they check my KPIs, and professionally I was always on point, but I felt like it kind of gave me a target, but put a target on my back as well. And there were two things that sort of changed it for me, where I was like, okay, yeah, this is not it. First of all, we used to do this conference in Monte Carlo, like every year. It was an annual one. And when I first joined, it was first, that's when it was first out. And so I was like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got this new job. I'm going to Monte Carlo. I had my own driver. It was amazing. But then they had this thing where they sort of separated, and I was a senior associate. Sorry if I'm talking too fast. Sorry, I'm talking too much. Okay.
No, you're fine.
Okay, cool. So my whole team was in one hotel, which was like, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like the grandest one. And I was by myself in a Novotel, which is like, I don't know if you have that there, but it's like just like one of the budget hotels. And I was like, okay, probably because I'm new, it's okay. But then the next year came, and everyone's like choosing hotels and stuff like that. And I'm a senior associate, and there was someone who joined after me who was a junior associate. And somehow, some way, I ended up back in the Novotel, and everyone was at the big main hotel. So the event was taking place at the biggest hotel, and then I was just having to walk like 12 minutes to get there. And so then after the third year in a row, and I was like, I think I would rather stay in this one because it's easier, because I'm working there as well. So, and they were like, oh, the budget this year is not going to allow for that. So again, so after the third year, I was like, no, this is, and they'd be like smiling in my face, like, but I was like, no, something's not right. And I just started to realize that I was being shunned, underappreciated, and I didn't want to have like a victim mentality, because I believe that, everything's in my control. But then I was like, nah, these people are really sort of singling me out, and it's only because I'm doing what I need to be doing. And it was just weird, because I'm like, if I wasn't doing the work, they'd be mad, but I was doing the work, and I guess I was, so it basically got to a point where they couldn't have certain meetings without me. So I think that was also like, it kind of got the boss feeling, I don't know what it made him feel, but then there were so many meetings they couldn't have without me, and they would say it's not working, da-di-da, and I would come in and I'd press like 2 buttons and everything would be fine. So then I think it just sort of caused something that I didn't expect it to cause, and I felt like I was singled out a lot, especially towards the end. So I think that's why I just kind of think, well, I'm here like busting my butt, like doing a good job, like making sure that the company product is getting out there and everything, but I'm not being appreciated. And then I thought I could put the same amount of work that I do, because I was doing overtime. We don't get paid overtime, but always stay and make sure things were like up to par. And then I was like, I can literally put the same amount of energy that I've been putting in for these people for myself. And that's when I was like, okay, yeah, I need to do something for
Yes,
myself.
and we have to get into that, because a lot of people don't even have the courage to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you could explain a little bit of your experience. A lot of times, I feel like because we're in America and we're much more aware of like race issues, some Black women
Mm,
are very much more like their sense of awareness of being a Black woman in the workspace is heightened, right? And so they go into the
mm,
office and they're super self-conscious about it before something like you going to a business trip even happens, and they experience it, right?
mm,
So from you realizing what was happening, it's really, really, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that first of all, you went into the experience kind of just going into it open, right? And then you're
mhm,
experiencing year after year, and you're like, this is like strange. And then
yeah,
at the end of the day, when you get this like crazy excuse, like, oh, sorry, the expense is not gonna work, then you start to be like, I feel like this is a microaggression. Um,
yeah.
First of all, I'm curious, like, what's the conversation like in the UK around like microaggressions and things like that that happen in the workplace? And then for you, was it you like also for me, I didn't necessarily identify with like, okay, this is happening to me because I'm Black, right? And for you, it took you 3 years to be like, oh, maybe, right? So what
Mm.
was your like how did you come into being a Black woman, right? Like how did you start to identify as a Black woman? And then what is the conversation around these microaggressions around like them touching your hair and things like that before you got the courage to go out on your own?
So these conversations, well, I think it wasn't even, to be honest, it wasn't even the whole Monte Carlo thing that even pushed me over. It was when a friend of mine, he died, he was shot in the back, like on his doorstep, and I hadn't found out. So this was while I was there, and it was in the newspapers, but I hadn't seen anything, so I had no idea. So a lot of them had seen it and they didn't realize it was someone I knew. And then I think it
Was
was
this
during my
recent? Like
break.
how long ago was this?
No,
Was
this
this
was
during
4 years ago. It was 4 years
sorry?
ago now. 4 years ago.
Oh, 4 years. Okay, gotcha.
Hmm. And yeah, so once I found out when I was like on my lunch break, because I don't really check social media, and somehow I realized that it was him. So when that had happened, obviously, like I broke down and I just like I hid, like I was in the bathroom, like I was in shock, and a supervisor directly above me and then the main one, so we worked in a very small team between the three of us for our project.
I'm so
And
sorry to
basically,
interrupt. Your camera stopped. So I'm trying to figure out if that was mine or if that was used. If that was you. So guys, if you could in the chat, just say if you heard that. If you're okay, going back maybe a couple of seconds of what you were saying, you blinked out.
okay,
Sorry
I
about this.
think
Your
I'm
first
still here.
time and the service is acting crazy.
No, okay. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm good now. All right.
Okay, it's good.
Thanks,
Got it. It's
Nicolette.
good.
Okay, so then I was like hiding in the bathroom because I was just like a mess. And my supervisor came, she was a lady. And so then I ended up telling her everything that had happened. And she was like, okay, yeah, go home, go home. And then I left. So the way the office was, everywhere was glass. It was like a really fancy office, like glass everywhere. And so you can see through everything. And I saw her go, as I was like getting ready to leave, I saw her go to her boss, and the door was glass and she was telling him, and I couldn't, and I swear it's not paranoia, but his response was kind of like, well, what do you expect? Like, yeah, well, he made a face like when she told him. So I know his first like face was shocked because it was a really like brutal thing that happened, because it was on his doorstep in front of his mum, it was in the papers, so it was like a really big thing that had happened. And then when he had it, his second reaction was like, well, like, yeah, well, what do you expect? And there was too much going on in my head, like in that moment. But then obviously I've just lost someone, and it was the most like
Right.
brutal way I've lost a friend. And the
Right. And
fact
so
that
now you have to
his,
come to the fact that he's like super like dismissive, and then the culture, you're having to deal with the fact that the culture is like dismissive of our people dying anyway, and now you're also
yeah.
grieving in the process.
Hmm. So I think that was the thing that really made me like, I was like, nah, I can't, because I could see that he's kind of thinking, well, I mean, that's your people, like that's what you guys do. because it was two black guys who killed another black guy. So they're just like, yeah, that's what they do. And he was just so dismissive of it. Obviously, he didn't know that I had seen that. But then I was just like, it just made me sick. And I was like, yeah, no, this is not the place for me. And in terms of like the microaggression, it was just small things like me choosing not to eat my lunch with them at their table or go to one of the fancy like coffee shops with them because I brought food from home, or my mum made me something and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have this rice. Like or even just looking at my food every day. Like, so I'm from Ghana originally, and my mum would make like, you know, jollof rice and all sorts of things. And I used to be scared to bring it to work because I'm like, oh my gosh, I do not want these people in my like lunch. Like, oh, what's that? What's that? And I still got it all the time.
Right. Now you gotta educate everybody on what jollof. You gotta give the whole like explanation on this is the history. This is what we have on our holidays. Blah blah blah.
Exactly. So it was just too much, and they kind of labeled me out as, again, like I wasn't going out like drinking with them or doing all the stuff that they do. And instead of that, I realized like I can either try and get in line and go to all the social events and go to eat. I mean, it was all paid for, so I had like, it was an experience I could have. But then I realized like these are not my people. Like, these are my colleagues, I work with them, and that's as far as it goes. And I didn't want to have any interaction with them. And when I left, there were so many people who were trying to find me, get in contact with me, but I just thought, no, I didn't like them. Like, I just genuinely didn't like them. And it just gave me such a bad, I even went to the New York office for the same company, and it was basically the same. Like, I had like one girl who was nice to me because she met me in London, and after that, like, everyone just did their thing. Like, I sat there like I didn't exist, and I was like, great, I'm in this place, I'm black and British, and I'm just like, yeah, it's the same everywhere. So I was like, let me just stay my butt at home and work from home. So that's what I started doing as much as possible.
What's interesting is you know, having this conversation and feeling like well, you know, after 2020 when George Floyd passed and all of the world was like really united, you would think that like we kind of are getting to a place where we're all on the same page. And I know this was 4 years ago at the time, but it's interesting, like the ways in which like our societies have to like evolve and come around to acknowledging, first of all, that we grieve as people, two, like that we are like acknowledging our differences without making it weird, and then three, that we have to really like, we as people have to utilize so much energy and effort to like operate and even use so much mental capacity to think about those type of things just to be like normal in the office. I had another homegirl who similarly was like, I'm not gonna say reprimanded, but you know, like you're dinged when you're the employee who doesn't want to hang out, and that also happens here. So it's really interesting that you're drawing out these like experiences, but they're very similar to what we experience. So I don't know.
The top 3 responses that I get when I ask, why do you want to leave corporate America, are that you want financial freedom, you want to own your own time, and you want to build a legacy for this generation and generations to come. Now, this is not a solo job. In order to transition from your 9 to 5 into entrepreneurship, it's going to take community and it's going to take resources. And I've created the community of pioneers who are going to wrap around you and help you make that transition successfully. So if you're interested in leaving your job, go ahead and click that information below. Let's get into the community and let's transition from your 9 to 5 into entrepreneurship successfully. Now let's get back to the episode.
I don't know why, you know, like I just feel like it, you know, the differences, like hopefully I have more hope in our people, or like maybe it's not like that in other places, but oftentimes it's you know, we got work to do everywhere. We got work to do everywhere. So you finally, you thought to yourself, and sorry guys if I'm not addressing anybody's comments. First of all, I'm so happy to have El-elyon, and thank y'all for the supporters who are in here giving some props. I can't see you guys' comments, but please know that my heart is with you guys, and I'm really, really hoping. Oh, I see I love you already. I see I love you.
I can't see the comments anymore either.
You can't either?
No.
Okay, so something weird is happening. I do see I love you. I just tapped something and I saw I love you, so I'm pretty sure that's for you, my dear. And then,
I love you too. Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on. Can you still? Hold on. Let me just try this. Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, if I scroll it, it goes away. So I can only keep up with the very last comment that I see. But okay, can
I
you
haven't
see this?
updated my app
Yes.
as well, so I probably need to update.
No, so Jamila just said, "Can you see this?" I can see Jamila. So, like I said, I can see the last chat. So if you guys say something, I can see it, but I might not be able to get to it if it's really long. Anyway, so back to you. You got the courage, right? Oh my gosh. You realizing you had the work ethic to be able to like do it on your own, that inspires me. And I think a lot of times people need to know that you're capable, right? I think that's the first part, believing in yourself. And so after you got done doing all the grit work, realizing, yo, I'm putting like twice the energy into what I'm doing right now. I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
I honestly think, I think that's the better way of going about it, because if you realize entrepreneurship is hard and you're like, I'm already working hard, I'm gonna just go a little bit harder. I'm gonna keep the same energy. It's better than being like the employee who's like, this job sucks. Like
Yeah.
now I want to be an entrepreneur. You like, oh, do you really? So
Exactly.
So when
Yeah.
did you decide that you were gonna go into business for yourself? And what was your first like business venture? Like what was the process of you getting the LLC? How did you like work up the confidence to do all of those things?
Okay, so it wasn't straightforward. To be fair, while I was doing like working there, I had before I left, I started like putting things in place, but nothing really solid because I didn't really have like a blueprint of what to do. Even though actually the app that I was building was about 7 factors of growing your business, but that's more for people who had already had their business established. So I couldn't really use any of that at that stage. And I thought, so it was my sister actually. She said, like, she used to hear me teach people, and she was like, oh, you need to. She's a doctor, and she was like, I understood that piece of law that you just taught, and I wasn't teaching to get paid. I was just teaching someone who needed help. And she was like, no, you need to teach because I'm a doctor and I understood everything you just explained. So then I thought, okay, yeah, maybe I can start doing this. So thankfully I had got some awards from like the legal, some legal faculties that put me like on a step up. And I thought, okay, I should use that platform. So I started doing that like bit by bit. But then I didn't realize, although I worked hard and I knew I had the work ethic, there was, because like you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes
Yeah.
you get to a place I'm like, well, here I am. And so even more recently, so I think I would have to fast forward because I went into, and I have a problem which I'm trying to work on, and I think Jose mentioned it, like being an idea hoarder. And I want to do
Mm.
everything. The minute I see an idea or I think, I'm like, yes, there was, and my friends they're very supportive of me and I appreciate it, and my sister too. But they also keep me in check because the most recent business I had wanted to do before, like, you know, like focusing, I wanted to start making chairs because I once made a chair. I saw a chair, I saw someone do it on YouTube, and I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna start making chairs. And my friend was like, "El-elyon, are you okay?" Because I've just been registered. Well, I've just passed in New York to become an attorney there, and I had my license. I'm just waiting for the, you know, to do the whole paperwork thing. And so she was like, "You've got this business. You've got your, you know, you're gonna be working in New York soon. Why are you trying to make chairs?" I'm like, no, I just think it'll be a really good business. I also wanted to do travel, like be a travel agent, and I started to register. And I just think wherever I see, I'm like, yeah, this would be a good idea. I was
Yeah.
jumping at it. So it meant that I was doing so many things, like too many things around. Like I was just trying to do everything because I was basically like hustling, like anything I can do to make money, I'm gonna do it. But then I realized that if I want to like actually get my business set up and really just make it grow, I have to focus on it. I got that from the morning meetup, actually, one of the sessions. And so I registered my company officially last year. And from like the co-field thing, I've got some, and it's different here. That's the thing, like in terms of tax, OEA says it's similar. I need to work out that, but then I've just decided I'm just going to go all in with this and just take it from there. And even still, I haven't really marketed it or anything, but with the things that I've learned from the books that we've read, I've been
Yeah.
able to talk to people one-on-one. And I know that once I've got the knowledge that I need for things like sales, marketing, and like analytics aren't like my forte. Like I just, do what I have to do. So I was a bit wary of stepping into it, and I've built everything myself. It's definitely a lot of sleepless nights, but at the end of the day, I think it's worth it. And more recently, I had applied for a job, and I thought, let me just, because everyone's like, you can get into literally any corporate job. And I was like, so I was on the fence. I was like, let me just send an application. And I did. And they got back to
Double
me.
Dutch.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, let me just go to the interview. And I did. And they got back to me. And it went all the way through to the end. And then they were like, I think it was a day. And they were like, okay, so you're going to have to come to the training from 1 till 7, like 1 till 7 p.m. But for me, the morning meetup is 1 till 2. So it's like around that time. And they said, make sure you've got no phones, make sure this, make sure that. And they're giving me all these rules. And I thought, yeah, no, I can't do this. I was like, first of all, you're going to make me miss the morning meetup. And I'm not about to do that.
Oh my gosh. Listen, if thank God for the morning meetup saving you from going back into corporate, because if that's the one thing to be like, you know what, I'm actually not gonna go back into this rigid environment, then
Yeah.
listen, thank you, morning meetup, for that and that alone. Oh my God. And for it to be like 1 to 2 and you still be dedicated, that's amazing. You have to make the connection for me, because you were a program manager in corporate, right? And then your sister caught you really explaining something in detail about law. And then you have these other passions, which we can all, like, I know everybody on here can identify with having at least 2 passions that they, like, I could definitely start a crochet business, or I can definitely start it. Listen, we have been there. We have all been there. Listen, got 3 websites, 2 Instagram pages. Listen, we have all been there. You would have been 2 steps from creating a whole page with like chairs on it if your sister never said, hold up now, hold up.
Yeah, literally.
So how did you learn? Where did you learn legal? And now how do you, so it's kind of a twofer. How did you learn legal, and then how you learn to explain it? But then now how do you help your clients in the legal space?
Okay, so I went to university when I was like 16. So I've been in education since like pretty much my whole life. And so I'm 27 now, so I had to think about it. So I went to university when I was 16 and then studied all the way through.
Wow.
I took a break I think, so the longest break I had was while I was working in corporate. So that was, again, unrelated. And that's another reason why I left, because I had my law degree and I was teaching law on the side here and there. But then I hadn't really thought about taking my career forward, because I was making really good money there. And I thought, well, maybe this is something else I can do. And then after a while, I realized, so I practice family law in the UK, so I'm a family lawyer, and I deal with like child custody and divorce and stuff. And that as well is really draining. And I thought, yeah, I don't want to do this. And also, my boss in that space, I realized that she was underpaying me as well because of the way the organization was set up. And I thought, again, like I should just see what I like. So like I'd be preparing like a family case, and I'd be going through the papers and dealing with the clients, and I was still not liking it. And I thought, why is it like now I'm back in the legal space, why is it that I'm literally just dreading this every time? And I was like, it's because I'm not in the area that I want to be in. So then I decided to take the teaching thing more seriously, and that I love. Like when I'm like helping someone and they're like, oh my goodness, there was a girl who was going to drop out of university because she had no idea, like she didn't understand it. And it wasn't until we had a session and I would really like spend my time to break something down until you understand it. And I think it's the whole idea of like under promising and over delivering. I just really want to make sure that people are confident to go into whatever exams they have. So that's what I started doing for the UK. But then I passed the bar exam in New York, and that's also a very hard exam to pass. So then I realized I could start teaching that as well. So this is what I've been doing more recently, and also with like my friends who are like musicians or artists or like anyone in that space, I'm able to
Even a podcaster, because there's some stuff that I could ask you about the back end of like all
yeah.
these conversations that you could definitely help me with.
Yeah, hit me up for sure, because I also feel like it's important, even as someone with, I have a lot of legal knowledge based on all my time that I've spent there, but then sometimes people just don't know things, and it's really sad when I see somebody make like a really big decision or mistake because they didn't have the knowledge that. And so I would rather, even if you're not a client of mine, I would like to educate people, whether like wherever they are, whoever they are, whatever space they're in, so that they can understand like there's certain things you don't even have to pay for a lawyer for. You can literally do it yourself. And I would like, instead, maybe you can pay for someone to check your work. So I started to also like help people with court applications, things that people would charge like thousands for. But like when there's someone in need, and like people, sometimes the lawyers are like, they are like money grabbers. Like they see you, they're like, yep, I'll take that case. It's going to be 1,000 something. And I was seeing that happen in my job a lot as well. But then sometimes you're dealing with sensitive people, with family matters, and there's so much going on. And I thought, no. So sometimes, and I know it's bad of me, but like there was a lady, she was literally like in tears. Her case was the worst case ever. And she couldn't afford like the next stage of like our help. And I literally just took her aside and I said, look, these application forms, they do seem very long, but they're very simple. If you just go through it step by step, I showed her where to get the guidance. I said, once you've done it, you can bring it back. I'll look over it for you. And then you can just literally submit it by yourself. It doesn't have to be me to do it for you. And it was from there, she was like, but she gave me a little plaque saying thank you, because I literally saved her like thousands. And I know as a lawyer, you're supposed to be, getting clients, and I get that. But then I'm more about educating people so that they can also, save money and make money. Like my clients will come, the people who don't want to spend time to do it, they'll come to me. The people who kind of want to do it themselves and whatnot, they can, as long as they're doing it right, so they can get their applications through and stuff. So I think that's where I've seen my passion is, and so I'm just continue to explore and grow in that area.
Good.
My license, then I can actually help people and like sign things off as well. So
Awesome. Well, I am super grateful for your family and your girls keeping you locked in on this passion, because we can always make chairs, and if that was ever something you want to do and your page starts changing and you're like, listen, I go from teaching you how to get your legal situation together or teaching you how to get your child support back in court to now I'm gonna teach you how to make this chair, then I'm gonna just be like, let's go, girl, let's go. As long whatever you decide to be consistent in, I'm with it. So
I can still teach you the chairs if you ever want to go. If you ever want to FaceTime, I can show you a little something.
Just set my I'm gonna just set my phone up. We're gonna do it together. We can just have some quality time. I'm down with it. Okay, so we can get our fix, in other ways.
Exactly.
So I'm curious about, so you help with family law, and I think that for those of you who are on here and you realize that there's someone either in your family or you need that type of support, go and check out the content that El-elyon has, and then you reach out to her to see if you can actually get some help. I'm curious also, your journey actually, because they might also want to connect with you about your journey, and you've really dropped a lot of like insight into the entrepreneurial path, which is like you started in one sector, you learned, you had your education in one degree, you decided to go into corporate because of like, hey, who doesn't want to go into corporate until you actually experience it, right? And then you had your experience, right? You're evolving as a woman. You're really like being more open and aware and experiencing things. And then you decide, hey, I'm going to bet on myself because I'm working so hard in corporate. I need to bet on myself and work this hard on myself.
Right.
All the way to the point where you finally leave. You have the work ethic, but now you have the distractions of the passions that we all experience as entrepreneurs. I think your story in general kind of gives us a glimpse of what that journey looks like from going from one education, corporate, and then entrepreneurship, what that looks like. So before we get up out of here, when you reflect on your journey and where you are right now, what you've learned and what you would have told yourself before you actually left, what's that one thing that you would say would have helped you much sooner get your footing in entrepreneurship a little bit sooner?
I would say not think like caring what people think, like what others think, because I do feel like, and it's still a problem now, I would be definitely a lot more fearless. I would do it ugly, do it scared, do it now, 100%, because I let that hold me back because I thought, well, people are going to think, why did you literally had everything. Like, you had a private car picking up, you were going to Monaco, you were doing all these things, but actually you, like, just because you have a corporate job doesn't mean that that's it, like you've made it. So I definitely would, I would just like take that step. I would do it ugly. Like, I think that's my biggest lesson that I wish I knew then, because that's even helped me now with my business. Because if I had just done it ugly back then, I would have grown my network so much more. I would have been like so many steps ahead. And I'm doing it anyway. Like, here I am, like how many years later, and I'm doing what I was gonna do anyway. So the time is gonna come, and you're gonna do it at the end of the day. So you might as well just do it now and do it ugly, like our good friend Kelly says. So yeah, that's what I would definitely say.
I love it. 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 I would say there was this was also in the morning meetup, but it's one of the things that made me take action even after I quit. And someone was asked, is there something that you can go back and, or something that you regret, or if you could go back and do anything, what was it? He said, act sooner. This was Justin with the black colleges, support black colleges. He said he would act sooner. And there was something that I was like, you know what, let me get my credit card real quick and let me go ahead and process this payment so I can go ahead and get my life together. And
Yeah.
sure enough, it was the beginning of a beautiful like evolution of me as an entrepreneur, and I don't regret it. So I love your reflection of like, just do it ugly, get out there, build your Rolodex, whatever, wherever you are, get started. Because
Right.
like what the finish line looks like, whew, and you like we don't even know what the finish like. The journey is amazing. So
Yeah.
yes, I appreciate you so much for sharing your journey. Before we get up out of here, please help them understand, like, really clearly, like, what it is that you want folks to be reaching out to you, and when they can reach out to you, and how can they connect with you.
Okay, so I'm working on this, and I do have someone to help me with like my social media marketing, etc. But if you're interested in learning about law or doing like a bar exam in any of the United States, some of them don't do this one, but you can just send me a DM. If anything, that's where we'll start for now. My website is up, but it's like a membership one, so unless you're going to take the bar exam at this point, it won't be too helpful to you. But if you have any questions about anything, you can just send me a DM on Instagram, and I will get back to you.
Well, there you have it. Thank you guys for joining us all this time. I see some comments coming in. So, hey, girl, hey, Nubian Cuban, Lord. And all of the supporters who are here to give El-elyon some energy. I love the supporters. I love that. And if you guys have any specific questions, you know where to find her. But until next time, y'all have a wonderful Wednesday. Y'all know how we do. Have a
Okay, thank
wonderful
you so much,
Wednesday.
Ariel. This
Thank
has been
you.
fun. Thank you.